Andira had only been living in her grandfather's old wooden house for 2 weeks. The small cottage sat alone on the slopes of Mount Puntong, surrounded by overgrown tea fields that hadn't been touched in years. No neighbors, no phone signal. But that was exactly what she wanted, peace and quiet. After years of noise and stress in the city, Andira had moved there to write, and maybe, to heal from a part of herself she still couldn't explain. The first few days were uneventful. She woke up early, cooked simple meals, read books, and tried to write. The air was cool. The nights came early. Mist would crawl into the kitchen windows before midnight, soft and silent. Nothing unusual. Until the fourth night. That was when the dream happened. Not a nightmare. Not the kind that jolts you awake in fear. But a dream so vivid, so quiet, and so strange, that it felt more like she had walked into another world. She found herself standing at the edge of a small lake. The water was perfectly still, reflecting the full moon like glass. The trees around her had crimson leaves, swaying gently. But there was no wind, no sound. The world felt paused, and then she saw him. Across the lake stood a man, tall, pale, dressed in long white robes that shimmered faintly, even without light. His hair was dark, shoulder length, his face calm and solemn, but his eyes, they carried the weight of centuries. He raised his hand, palm open, and then she heard it felt it. You finally came. The voice did not come through her ears. It came into her mind, clear and warm, like an echo inside her own thoughts. She wanted to ask who he was, but her mouth wouldn't move. Her legs walked forward on their own. The ground beneath her felt like memory, not earth. She approached him slowly. The man didn't move, only waited. In his hand was a silver ring, plain, no stones, no marks, but it shimmered like morning frost. I've waited through 7 dream seasons for this, he said. But this is the first time you've crossed fully into this side. She didn't understand, but her hand reached forward on its own. And when he slipped the ring onto her finger, the entire lake seemed to pulse once, like the world had taken a deep breath. The trees shimmered, the moon flickered, and then Andira woke up. In her bed, in the wooden house, the sky still dark, her breathing heavy, heart racing. But what made her blood truly freeze was the ring still on her finger, cold, real, solid silver. And just then, she noticed something else. The bedroom door dot, which she always locked before sleeping, was now slightly open, as if someone had just walked out, or had just come in. Andira sat up in bed, staring at her hand, the silver ring still wrapped snugly around her finger, cold, solid, real. She reached for the door. It was cracked open just enough to see the hallway. But she remembered locking it, twice just like always. The house was silent, no wind, no creaking floorboards, no insects humming in the dark, only the low thudding of her own heartbeat. Andira tried to make sense of it. Maybe she had sleepwalked. Maybe the ring had fallen from somewhere, though she'd never owned a silver ring in her life. Maybe. But what she couldn't explain, what made the edges of her mind curl inward, was how the man in her dream had spoken her name, without her ever saying it. The next morning felt off. Every time she tried to write, her mind wandered back to that lake. The reflection of the moon, the man with pale skin and silver eyes. The way the dream had ended, as if it wasn't a dream at all, but an interrupted memory. And there was something else. Each time her finger brushed the ring, a strange calmness came over her. Not peace, not joy, but a kind of stillness, like floating underwater. That afternoon, the fog returned early. By 5 o'clock, her windows were covered in mist. In the kitchen, she heard the soft, rhythmic dripping of water. She checked the faucet, it was tightly shut. She stepped toward the back door, opened it. What she saw made her breath catch. Bare footprints on the wet soil just outside. 2 sets, one large, one small, both headed toward the house. No sign of animals, no puddles, just perfect, wet footprints, and silence. She closed the door gently, locked it twice again. But that night, the dream returned. She stood again by the lake, but the sky above was different. No stars, no moon, just darkness, and the trees had changed. Their leaves were now a deep crimson, almost black. The man was still there, closer this time, his expression unreadable, his hand stretched forward again. And then she heard it inside her head, not through her ears. Do not lock your door tonight. I must come in. You have to see my full form, or you will forget everything by morning." Her heart trembled. She wanted to say no, but her body didn't move. She felt frozen in time. His voice came again, gentler this time. "You've already crossed once. You're not supposed to remember, but you did. That means something." Andira gasped. She awoke, still in bed, still in her room, but the ring on her finger was glowing faintly in the dark. And just outside the window, she heard footsteps in the grass, slow, deliberate, coming closer. But still no shadow, no silhouette, just the sound. The footsteps outside were slow and steady, circling the house on damp soil, but no shadow ever appeared, no figure, just the sound, getting closer, until it stopped right in front of the door. Andira sat up. The ring on her finger pulsed with warmth. Something was near. She stepped out of bed, crossed the room, and stared at the door. The lock and she was sure she had bolted it before. Her hand hovered over the handle. Then a voice echoed inside her head. "Open the door. Don't make me become a shadow again." It wasn't threatening. It was pleading. Sad. She opened the door slowly. Fog clung to the yard. The trees swayed gently, though there was no wind. No one was there, but on the ground footprints. Human, bare, leading away from the house. Something in her told her to follow. Through tea bushes, down a slope she didn't recognize, the prints guided her deeper into the mist, until she stood before an old stone ruin, half swallowed by earth and time. At its center stood a tall, cracked mirror, propped up by rock. It shouldn't have been there. And in the mirror, she saw not her own reflection but his. The man from her dreams. He stood motionless, inside the glass, eyes calm but heavy. Then came the voice again. "If you think this is just a dream, walk away. But if you believe I'm real, touch the glass, I'll help you remember everything." Andira raised her hand. The mirror pulsed faintly, and the world held still. Andira placed her hand against the cracked mirror. It was cold, still. But the moment her skin touched the glass, the world around her shifted like the ground, took a breath and stopped existing. There was no falling, no sound, just the sensation of being pulled inward, without resistance. She opened her eyes and stood in a different place, a chamber without walls. Roots glowing faintly like threads of light hung from the air. The man from her dreams was there, facing her. His white robes seemed to ripple without wind, his silver eyes no longer distant, no longer cold. "You crossed over," he said, but not aloud. His voice reached her like a memory. Not many do, not twice. Andira stepped closer. Her voice came out hoarse. "What is this place?" He turned toward the glowing roots above them. "It's the space between what was and what almost happened." He looked back at her. "Long ago, I fell in love with a human. She was kind and strong, but her world was bound by time. She died, and I remained. For years, I tried to forget. But love like that, it marks you." Andira's chest tightened. "What does that have to do with me?" His eyes shimmered. "You carry a reflection of her soul. Not a copy, not a return, but something familiar." Andira didn't move, but something inside her, something deep and quiet, felt it. Not fear, not confusion, just understanding. "I gave you the ring not to bind you," he said, "but because you crossed into a place few humans ever reach. That crossing leaves a mark." She looked at the silver band. It pulsed once, faintly. "If you choose to go back, I will not follow," he continued. "The veil will close, but if you stay, you must know there are others here. They do not love, they only mimic." "What do they want?" Andira asked. "They live off hollow bonds, fake promises, emptiness between souls. They will use your image, your voice, even your memories, but they have no heart." Andira took a step back. The air in the chamber grew colder. She could feel something else watching now. Something just outside the light. "We're running out of time," he said. The roots above began to dim. "If you wish to remember who you truly are, then follow me deeper. But if you go back now, they may follow you." "You opened a door." Before she could answer, the ground cracked. Darkness flooded in. The light vanished. Andira gasped and woke up in her bed. There was no ring on her finger, no fog on the window, no voice in her head, but on her nightstand sat a single tea leaf, dried, curled, with a silver thread tied around its stem. and in the corner of her mirror, a faint hairline crack that hadn't been there before. Andira stared at the mirror. The hairline crack hadn't been there before. It stretched like a scar beneath the glass, faint but alive. Her reflection looked back, same eyes, same face, but something felt delayed. Not wrong, just off by half a second. Like the mirror was thinking before it copied her. She turned to the nightstand. A single tea leaf lay curled at the edge, tied with silver thread. The ring was gone, but this remained. She reached for it. Cold shot through her fingertips. Not pain, a message. A pulse of something not entirely hers. Then came the breathing. Not hers, it was behind her. She spun around. Empty hallway. Still house. But the mirror behind her flickered just once. Her reflection didn't turn. It kept staring straight ahead, still, silent. Then it blinked. Slowly, she hadn't blinked. Her blood turned to ice. Behind her reflection, a second shape formed, taller, paler, its face featureless, except for wide black eyes that didn't blink at all. It leaned forward, pressing against the glass like it wanted out. She ran. Down the hall. The windows outside fogged instantly. Shapes moved beyond them. Not people, not animals. Things that watched without eyes. She locked the front door. 2 bolts. Then she heard her own voice from outside. "Let me in, please. I'm scared." Exactly her voice, her tone, her breath. She looked through the peephole. In the mist stood another Andira, barefoot, dripping wet, staring at the door with trembling hands. Same clothes, same fear, same ring on her finger, but her skin flickered, like smoke trying to hold a shape. Andira backed away. Then a whisper behind her, "If you let her in, you'll forget which one is really you." ... She turned sharply. The man was standing in her kitchen, pale robes, calm eyes, but now, worry lined his face. "You brought something back with you," he said. "The mirror never fully closed. You need to seal it, or they'll wear your face and walk in your life." "How do I seal it?" she asked. He pointed down the hall, where it began. "What's real can't be stolen. Give the mirror something it can't copy." Then he was gone. She stood alone. Outside, her voice begged louder. Inside, the mirror cracked deeper. Andira stepped toward her room, and the closer she got, the less sure she was that she was the only one inside. Andira stood in front of her bedroom door. On the other side, the mirror waited, cracked, pulsing, alive. Behind her, outside the house, her own voice kept calling, louder, angrier, less afraid. The longer it stayed, the less it sounded like her. She pushed open the door. The room was dim. The mirror stood exactly where she'd left it, but now the crack ran straight through her reflection's face. One side was calm, the other, smiling. She stepped forward slowly. Her reflection copied her. But something was wrong. It was wearing the ring. She looked down at her own hand, bare. The voice came again from the glass. "You're not the first to leave your name behind, but if you don't take it back, you won't be able to return." Andira clenched her fists. "I never gave it away." The mirror rippled. Her reflection laughed without sound. "Then why does she have your voice, your memories, your ring?" The glass glowed faintly. Suddenly, the other Andira, the one outside, screamed, not in fear, in rage. "Let me in. I belong here." The windows shook. The lights flickered. Inside the mirror, the reflection pressed both hands to the glass. The crack widened, and from it, shadows began to leak into the room. Andira remembered what he said. "Give the mirror something it can't copy." She looked around. Her heart pounded. What was hers alone? What couldn't be faked? Then she saw at her notebook, the one she'd written in before any of the dreams. It held thoughts no one else knew, memories no one had seen. She grabbed it, ran to the mirror, and slammed it against the glass. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crack pulsed with white light. The shadow in the mirror screamed a silent, warping screech and twisted backward, away from the notebook. Its shape melted. The false Andira dissolved, like fog in sunlight. The mirror shattered. Glass flew outward, but nothing cut her. Silence. Andira opened her eyes. The ring was on her finger again, cold still, real. The mirror was gone. In its place just a blank wall, as if it had never been there. Outside the fog had lifted. The voice stopped. Days passed. No more dreams, no more footprints. But Andira kept the notebook close. Inside it, The final page was filled with handwriting. She didn't remember writing. It read, "Some doors don't open. They remember you and pull you through. But if you ever forget yourself, they don't need to pull anymore. You'll walk willingly." She turned the page. A small silver thread was taped there. And next to it, one sentence. "You came back, but not all of you." Andira closed the book. She didn't know which part hadn't returned. But she knew this: the mirror may be gone, but something else was still watching. And sometimes, when the lights were low, her reflection still blinked, just a little too slow.